It's a story of an FBI agent who goes undercover inside a deadly cult where one wrong move means certain death. Our story begins in Washington, USA, where an FBI team is surveilling a Somali boy named Usman, who intends to bomb a federal building. The FBI, however, apprehends him before the attack. A member of the FBI team is Nate Foster, a recent graduate from the training academy. Following his arrest, Usman is taken in for interrogation but refuses to speak properly with anyone. Nate then engages him in his native Somali language, making Usman comfortable enough to cooperate with the interrogation. Nate's calm interrogation style impresses his senior agent, Angela, who is taken by his communication and negotiation abilities. Nate is a reclusive individual with few friends, who dedicates most of his time to reading or working, a fact for which other agents in the bureau often mock him. One day, during a classified meeting, his director informs him that a radioactive substance called CCM was transported to America from North Africa, only to be stolen following an accident. From the shipment, just 2 containers have been recovered, while 6 containers remain unaccounted for. A large, highly dangerous bomb could be constructed from these 6 CCM boxes, so the FBI director orders them to monitor every terror group inside the country to determine who has stolen the CCM containers. Angela suspects the missing containers might be in the possession of a white supremacist group, who could intend to use them for building their own bomb. To validate her theory, she enlists Nate's assistance. Angela informs him about Dallas Walsh's podcast and radio show, which promotes Nazi ideology. Through vitriolic hate speech, he encourages white people to wage war against black individuals and all other non-white people, further fueling racial tensions. Angela reminds Nate of his skill in the interrogation room and his ability to connect with anyone. She then instructs Nate to go undercover, join a white supremacist gang, and get close enough to Walsh to see if they are constructing a bomb. Nate, feeling weary of his desk job and eager for more serious assignments, readily agrees to the plan and requests his boss's permission to undertake this dangerous mission. To join a neo-Nazi gang, Nate must first shave his head to look like a skinhead and listen to all the podcasts that racists typically follow. For the next several days, he also immerses himself in all the relevant books to fully grasp the ideology of white supremacist movements and Adolf Hitler. Angela provides Nate with a cover identity as an ex-army soldier and, using an informant, she gets Nate an introduction to Vince, the leader of a local white gang. Vince and his crew meet Nate for the first time, and he is successfully integrated into the gang. Everyone is fully convinced that Nate is a soldier recently returned from an army tour who shares their white supremacist ideology. Vince's group also includes 2 younger men named Roy and Johnny, who quickly become friends with Nate over a few days. Nate also gets a swastika tattoo on his hand just like them, and Angela urges him to maintain this appearance so Vince will trust Nate enough to introduce him to Walsh. Every night, Nate drifts off to sleep while typing up his daily report transcript. When Roy and Johnny visit his house in the mornings, he must quickly conceal his laptop, which is filled with confidential FBI reports, from their view. Vince and his gang now begin to place their trust in Nate and soon invite him to attend a house party. This party is being held at the home of an engineer named Jerry, who lacks tattoos or a shaved head, appearing as just a normal family man. Nate is pleased to meet Jerry, who, despite being a white supremacist, is a completely different kind of person from the members of Vince's gang due to his thoughtful words and maturity. At that same party, Vince introduces Nate to a brawny man named Andrew Blackwell, the leader of a large and violent white supremacist group based in Ohio. They all gather to watch a television interview with Dallas Walsh, where Walsh discusses his plans for organizing a massive rally for all white people. Nate tells Vince that he is a huge admirer of Walsh and would love to meet him someday. In response, Vince takes him to one of Walsh's conventions a few days later, where members of the Aryan Brotherhood and other white nationalist groups from across the country have also gathered. There, Walsh once again delivers a venomous speech promoting white power and disparaging black people, which earns thunderous applause from everyone. After the speech, Vince introduces Nate to Walsh for the very first time. Nate expresses to Walsh that he is a great fan of his speeches and will certainly be attending his upcoming rally. Additionally, Nate mentions he has wealthy friends who are interested in investing money in Walsh's radio show and podcast. This would allow him to reach a wider audience, and Walsh is absolutely delighted by the proposal. One day, Roy and Johnny spot a black man with his white girlfriend and, in a fit of rage, decide to assault the man. When Nate's attempts to stop them fail, he fakes an attack on the man himself to maintain his loyalty. Instead of actually hurting him, he hurls a bottle at the storefront behind him. This triggers the security alarm, forcing them to flee the scene before the police can arrive. A few days later, Nate attends Walsh's organized White Power rally, along with all the other white nationalist groups. There, despite his personal feelings, he joins in shouting racist slogans with everyone else to protect his cover. The rally, however, quickly turns violent when an anti-racist group confronts them in front of the police, and a brawl erupts. Nate sees that Andrew has sustained a head injury and manages to get him away from the chaos in time, as people from the opposing group also start attacking his car. To avoid any involvement in a police case, Nate goes to Jerry's house with the injured Andrew. There, Nate observes that Jerry and his family are remarkably decent people. They engage in a long conversation after dinner over drinks, as both men enjoy reading books. Nate also notes that despite his racist beliefs, Jerry deliberately avoids any political rallies or violent activities. Andrew expresses his gratitude to Nate for his help and, the following day, invites him to his military-style compound located deep in the jungle. The place is extremely isolated and vast, and Andrew is developing a war training facility for white nationalists there. Andrew explains to Nate that Vince and his gang members are just kids whose petty fights can't bring about any real change. "But I am working on a major project," he says. Nate sees that Andrew and his men are stockpiling a large number of weapons there. Andrew shows Nate a map of the city's water pipeline, saying, "We can carry out a massive attack through the pipeline." Nate believes he is finally on the right track. He tells Andrew, "I received special weapons training during my Iraq posting, and I can assist your new recruits with their targeting." With this, Andrew and he become good friends. Nate brings a business proposal and visits Walsh's house, repeating the offer he made at the convention. He explains that some of his investor friends are willing to help him in his fight. He offers him an initial financial contribution of $7,000, hoping that Walsh will begin to trust him and provide some information about the CCM or a bomb. On the pretense of using the washroom at Walsh's house, Nate scans the residence with a Geiger machine. He manages to get some faint signals of radioactive material from the device. Nate returns to his place and immediately calls Angela and his boss, asking them to prepare the $7,000. He also tells them to alert all FBI teams that Walsh is likely planning an attack with Andrew, using the stolen CCM. Now, Nate completely forgets about Vince and his gang, focusing exclusively on Andrew and his compound, spending all of his time there. One day, Vince and Roy show up at Andrew's office. To get rid of them, they call Nate a traitor, but Andrew has complete faith in Nate. He and his men promptly drive them away from the property. When Nate receives the money from the FBI, he takes it and goes to Walsh's house once more. He gives him the cash and says that his investors are prepared to offer more. They just need to know his next big plan. Walsh talks about expanding his radio show, but Nate persists in asking him questions about some larger action. Walsh then returns the money, telling him he has no such plans and asks Nate to leave his home. Nate receives a call from Angela, who summons him back to the office. She reveals that Walsh himself came to their office that day, claiming he had some information to share. Angela interrogates Walsh, and Walsh explains that he came to file a complaint about a man named Nate, who had offered him money and was attempting to incite him towards some kind of violent action. Angela doesn't try to protect Nate's cover and tells Walsh that his radio shows provoke many young men, suggesting it's possible Nate is one of them. She also mentions having evidence that there is radioactive material in his house. But Walsh claims he is merely an entertainer who delivers speeches and hosts radio shows for money and doesn't actually believe in the ideology of white supremacy. He reveals that he has prostate cancer, and if any of their machines detected any traces, it's because he is currently undergoing radiotherapy for his cancer treatment. All of Angela's theories about Walsh planning an attack are proven false, and her boss berates both her and Nate for wasting so much of the FBI's time. He says that, like Walsh, Andrew wasn't planning an attack either, He just possessed a pipeline map which he used to impress and recruit new young men into his group. Also, after a thorough check, he confirms that all the weapons at his compound are legally registered, and he even has a license. After being harshly reprimanded by her boss, Angela starts to believe that perhaps she had been pursuing a mistaken lead. She instructs Nate to terminate the mission and return to the office so they can be assigned to another case, as she currently lacks any solid evidence to present to her superiors. Nate becomes deeply depressed and begins to pack his belongings to come back. He discovers a book Jerry had given him in his luggage and decides to go to his house to return it. Jerry sees that Nate is very distraught. Nate says that he is leaving the city and moving to the west side of America because he failed to do anything significant for his people. Seeing Nate in this state, Jerry says that if he truly wants to, Nate can help him. It's then revealed that not Walsh or Andrew, but Jerry, is the one building a bomb with two accomplices using the stolen CCM. To construct their bomb, they are missing a specific chemical. Nate claims he has a contact at a medical supply company and can acquire a superior explosive called TATP instead of that chemical. Impressed by Nate's knowledge of bomb making and his conviction, Jerry and his two accomplices decide to include him in their team. Angela alerts her boss and all the senior agents that she has located the CCM and the bomb makers, confirming their mission is still active. Posing as Nate's contact, Angela prepares a fake TATP. Nate calls Jerry and his two friends, providing them with protective suits to guard against the fake TATP and chemical exposure. However, the three men do not disclose to him the location of the CCM or the scheduled day of the bomb blast. The next morning, Angela informs Nate by phone that Jerry's group is planning to carry out the bomb blast without him. They have purchased a large quantity of ammonium nitrate from the supermarket that day, so they no longer need to use Nate's TATP. Nate races immediately to Jerry's house, where the men are stunned to see him. But Nate explains that their phones were off, which is why he had to come in person. Jerry explains that he suspects the police are about to close in on them, so they have decided to execute the blast today. Nate then sees that Jerry has constructed a bomb in his garage using the CCM boxes and various chemicals. On the pretext of washing his hands, Nate goes to the washroom inside Jerry's house and informs Angela by phone that the CCM bomb is in the garage, but he pleads with them to give him 1 minute before they begin the raid. He explains that Jerry's wife and children are also home. Nate returns to the garage and pretends to assist in building a trigger for the bomb. He cleverly sprinkles a bit of washing detergent on everyone's feet and claims that one of the CCM boxes is leaking. This causes everyone to panic and they start putting on their bomb suits. But Jerry realizes Nate's deception and begins to attack him. Just then, the FBI team storms the garage and arrests them along with the bomb. Nate's quick thinking prevents any gunfight or explosion, and he successfully brings the mission to a close. When Nate reports to the office the following day, the FBI director and his boss greet him with a surprise party. Nate informs Angela that he has received a promotion and is being transferred to the Texas office. Angela is overjoyed by this news. At the movie's conclusion, we see Johnny in a classroom. He has now left the white supremacist gang and is teaching school students about staying away from racism and extremism. Nate is extremely happy to see this new version of Johnny before he departs the city.